Welcome back to Roxham TV and also welcome back to Gem Crypto. Well, as you know, the market is being extremely bearish and everyone is using the B word, being a bear market. So is this real? Like, are we entering a official bear market? Because if that were to happen, we know it's going to last for at least a year, according to the 4-year cycle. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just focus on the charts because yesterday we dived into the TA, into the on-chain analysis, and also into the news analysis. However, what I noticed is that on-chain analysis is showing that there's still some room for us to grow. However, looking at the TA yesterday, as I predicted that we're going to drop down to 98K. That's exactly what I said in yesterday's live stream because we officially entered the free trading volume. That isn't trading volume between 98K to 102K. So what I claim is that if we lose 102K as support, we're going to get down to 98K within just one daily candle. And it looks like that prophecy has been filled. I would say I'm not happy to be right because looking at that Bitcoin chart is basically I feel the pain just like you guys because I'm still a long-term holder at the end of the day, but if Bitcoin has to play out like according to the 4-year cycle, like there is no reason, like the market doesn't care about how you guys think or how I think or how I feel. The market just reacts. Like at the end of the day, it's just data, it's just number. And what I saw yesterday, and it looks like the 4-year cycle so far is still being so intact. We still don't know for sure whether it's a cycle top or a local top. Reason being, there is still optimism in the market because, like, on the weekly candle of Bitcoin, we still haven't closed below the 50-week moving average. So, this week, basically, today is Wednesday, so we're gonna close the weekly candle in like four more days. So let's see how that would play out. This week is basically to determine whether we are officially entering the bear market or it's just a local top. So without further ado, let's dive into TA. We are skipping on the on-chain because a lot of like the on-chain indicators haven't told us that we have topped. So maybe tomorrow we're going to look at the on-chains in tomorrow's show. But right now, let's just focus on TA because we are seeing some bearish signs. We are starting from the daily and then we slowly move on to the weekly, slowly build up that to the higher time frame. Yesterday, what I said in the show on Roxham TV is that we enter these free trading zone. So this region between 98K to 102K. So the reason why I correctly predicted this because of the trading volumes of VLVP, you can see that on the VLVP on the left side, there isn't any data backing it. Meaning, if we lose 102K, there's a strong likelihood we're gonna free fall down to 98K before we found support. And it looks like that played out really well from my yesterday prediction. But again, Bitcoin looks like it's really following what it does for the 4-year cycle, despite we know the TradFi money, the traditional finance sector, the institutional money, the old money is getting in. Bitcoin is doing its thing. Looks like the 4-year cycle is very much intact, but we'll see. So yesterday I talked about these free, basically that is no trading volume. So we beautifully found support at 98K. So I drew this rectangle yesterday live stream. And not only this, like on the daily, like, okay, of course, this is a bearish setup. Let's close the VLVP and let's zoom closer and look at the general downtrend because we weren't bearish when we had the Black Friday on 10th of October. We were bearish when we were forming this bearish trend, like this downtrend. And we have been forming this downtrend since 126K. And after that, basically, we are on a downward movement. Of course, I didn't predict this. Otherwise, I'll be the biggest manipulator ever. But like, I didn't know Donald Trump would tweet out that stuff like about tariffs and the whole roller coaster is so dramatic. But like the overall, we're still in the downtrend very much. Even that was like back in 27th of October. Even we have this pump, but very much we got rejected by this general downtrend that we have been building up for basically for weeks. So even for me, okay, for me to flip my narratives of being a bull again, I really need to see Bitcoin to found support above this downward movement. Otherwise, I will still call it a dead cat bounce, because like I could totally foresee that maybe we're gonna get a tiny rally to 110K. People got excited, and turns out maybe we'll get rejected again. So in the coming days, I would say this week is very, very important because we are closing the weekly candle this week, and basically that would determine whether we are still in a bull cycle or we enter the bear cycle, the bear market. So, all right, so this is the general downtrend that has been forming since 6th of October. And another reason that I basically on the daily time frame, on the shorter time frame, it looks like there's still more pain to come. Let's go ahead and pull out the RSI right now. So RSI on the daily, one critical level that I'm eyeing is this magical number at 34, somewhere around. So 34.3, like somewhere around that. All right, so whenever we lose 34, that means there are more correction to come. So if we zoom out a little bit, I draw all this like a vertical line whenever we broke below 34. So again, that's the magical number on the RSI on the daily Bitcoin chart. So back when February 2025, so this year, we dipped below 34, and then basically I drew all the vertical line here in August 2024, in June 2024, in August 2023, in March 2023, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of lines. So there are a lot of occasions that we actually dip below 34. This is great. So that means more data to work it from, instead of just like the 4-year cycle. We only have like 3 cycles to basically everything is so intact, but like 3 cycles is still not enough data. But this 34 magical number looks like, okay, it's great, like a lot of numbers for us to work around with. So let us zoom closer, like why this magical number is so important. Like we could see, okay, let's zoom closer. Whenever we dip to 34, so here we broke 34, we are seeing this like downward movement, right? This is back in 2021 December. So we have like the bear market, because we saw the top of $69,000. That was on 10th of November. Maybe like people were saying, okay, it looks like a similar pattern, because we have someone say cycle top or local top. We don't know for sure yet whether 126K is the cycle top, but people are drawing similarity. Okay, that's what happened back in 2021 November. And then right now we are testing, we broke below the magical number of 34 on the RSI. Is the same thing going to play out this year in 2025? All right, so here we have one occasion, and then here again, like basically more often than not, when we, on the RSI, when we broke to the 34, this magical number, we have this like downward movement. Here's, well, it's not really, okay, why is this No, well, maybe let's remove this one. All right, so here on May 2022, that's another occasion with dip below 34, and then we have a downward movement followed by chops around. So consolidation and sideways movement. So dip and then sideways movement. Here again, dip, sideways movement. So sideways movement for quite a long time. So when we dip below 34 on the magical hour sign number, we dip and then we correct, and then we have a sideways movement for the Bitcoin's price. So in this case, we have a chops for 74 days. So that's extremely boring. So Bitcoin basically not doing much, just like consolidating around this period, and then so on and so forth. So in 2022 August, we have this like dip again, and then sideways movement. So that's a lot of data for us to work around with. So, so as here again, we did below 34. So we have the price correcting yet again. So you see this like price correction, and then we sideways before we, our side was resetting, and then our side went a little crazy, like we went, over the top. So close to 90 on the hour side. So that's why the market was looking so good. So RSI, I would say, is a really good indicator, and then the magical 34 number on the daily is something we cannot forget. All right, so that's a lot of occasion. Point being, what is happening right now? So you could say, okay, there's a lot of data to prove that the RSI, okay, we broke below the RSI, so that's what happened yesterday. We went below the 34 magical number. One thing we're trying to figure out is that, are we going to bounce off from this 34? So it's just like a small correction, like we visited 34 and then it's good enough, we're going to bounce off. Or we're going to dip below, actually went even below, maybe 20 something on the hour side. That's one thing we're trying to figure out. Like losing that 34 means gonna have more correction, but like regardless, dipping below the 34 magical number, like as I was showing you guys all this data from the past history, we know whenever we dip below, so dip below here we dip below again, we're gonna have a downward movement. So with this, that means more correction before trading sideways. So what I'm speculating here is that we might have the same thing play out, because at the end of the day, we lost 34 on the outside. So maybe we're gonna, have some more correction, and then we're gonna chop sideways. Maybe trade inside this region, trying to find some data, because this is again, free trading region between 98 and 102. Regardless, on the short time frame, so on daily time frame, it looks like, okay, maybe we dip a little bit more, and then we're gonna have some chop sideways action. So on the daily, it's not looking good. I don't like to sugarcoat anything. I just like to tell you what I see on charts. So TA looks like is the most compelling evidence compared to all the on-chain and news analysis, because one thing about, on-chain, we like to use a very long-term mentality. And zooming out, I know Bitcoin is going to be fine. I have no doubt about that. But like in a more short time frame, maybe I feel like using TA is a little bit more, like offer a lot more perspectives for my analysis at the time being. So we still need all three elements. So we still need on-chain and news analysis. But for news, it feels like most likely not, it's just narrative. So people are corporate. I don't like to sugarcoat anything again. So people like to allocate a narrative to the Bitcoin's price action. But like, I hate to break it to you, like Bitcoiners like to move when they feel like Bitcoin, like when Bitcoin feels like they want to move. So Bitcoin doesn't care about your emotion, doesn't care about the narratives, but like what TA does is using math to predict the future. And usually price would move first, and then people like to allocate a narrative to Bitcoin's price movement, and that is really reflecting on the chart, especially in the past month, like in especially in October or even yesterday. So that's one thing very interesting about math. I love the beauty of math. All right, so that's my daily. Let's also move on to the weekly chart. So yeah, today again, a lot of TA, a lot of chart analysis. Hope you guys like the content. So let me remove all the drawings so it's not too messy.
One thing I like to stress, like I keep talking about this on the weekly, is the 50-week moving average. I talk about that in the beginning of the show as well. Which one is the 50-week? So this blue line is the 50-week. All right. So the reason why we are looking at this so immensely, like I always mention this on every single show on Roxham TV. Because whenever we close, we have a weekly candle close below the 50-week. That means the bull run is over. There are occasions, like there are 3 times that we touch the 50-week in this cycle. All right, so for example, here, this is back in April. Here we touch again, that is September 2024. We touch again, that was in August 2024. So yeah, let me zoom closer if there any other occasion we dip below. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe not. So that's the 3 times that we actually touch the 50-week. And okay, if we touch like wicking below the 50-week, that's completely fine. We have done so as well. Literally yesterday, we dipped below the 50-week. So let's see if this is, are we going to close below or dip below? If we zoom closer, Bitcoin is kind of like bouncing off a little bit. So again, like this week is the most critical week for this entire cycle, because that determines whether the 4-year cycle is still so intact. And it also determines my personal strategy, like if I am taking more of this again, because I've been around for bear market. So even though Bitcoin is having a, wait, how much? So from 126,000, and then we dipped to 98K yesterday. So that was a 21% correction. So like, again, people keep saying bear market is when you make generation wealth. Like getting in the bear market, that means, okay, you get to buy Bitcoin at a pretty good, nice, like a 20K, or some people even less, maybe like 16K for the extremely savvy people. But like, what I'm eyeing is that this weekly candle, if we close below or wick below, that would drastically change my own strategy. Like what I'm gonna do, it has nothing to do with you guys, okay? Because everyone has different financial needs. As I keep stressing, there are ultimately just like 3 different groups of people in the market right now. So the first group is that 6th of October, we have seen the cycle top, which is 126K. And then the second group is that maybe Q4, so November and December, the best time is yet to come. And that's what on-chain is saying as well. And then the third scenario is that, so for the third group of people, they mostly believe in a narrative, so believe in a news or macro, like for traditional finance people, so TradFi people, they would find really bizarre that us, like crypto folks, would believe in the 4-year cycle so much that we're going to enter a bear market. And so far, I mean, looks like the first, right? But we don't know for sure. Again, we need to wait for confirmation. Until I actually see confirmation on my chart, like some data, some math to suggest that we enter the bear market. I'm still not calling this a bear market. Maybe a really good opportunity, a good correction to scoop up some BTC. I don't know. I need to see this candle close, this weekly candle close, in order for me to adjust my position. If I'm seeing a weekly candle or maybe a couple weekly candles, then I'm sorry, like I'm taking massive profit off the table, because like this indicator has never failed us. Okay, maybe there are occasion. Let's zoom back to 2021. So here we have a couple of weekly candles actually hover around the 50 week. So we touched the 50 week a couple of times, but there was like one candle actually closed below the 50 week. And then another weekly candle have like a big, like a massive green bar pushing price upwards. So here, like we have only one weekly candle close below. But okay, if we look at here, November 2021, we have a massive big red candle and we touched the 50 week. And then followed by the next weekly candle, we have this like, this right here. Like this candle doesn't show strength, because like we have like a price pushing to 50, and then we close at 50, like just over 50,000. So like this candle doesn't show strength, and that is another sign. So if you get a couple of weekly candles actually hover around and close below the 50 week, I'm so sorry, like I'm out of here. I'll see you guys in the next bull run. Like I'm not interested in hodling my bag for another 365 days at the very least. Yeah, so as we are getting closer to the end of the bull run, we have to essentially ask ourselves this question. So if either of this scenario plays out, how would you guys adjust your portfolio? Like I keep sharing this story with crypto folks. We know that based on the 4-year cycle, the 6th of October was such a important date. And I was having dinner with a bunch of friends on the 3rd of October. They asked me, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to take profit? Are they going to scoop some BTC? Is it safe to get in right now? That was on 3rd of October. And I literally told them, so there are three scenarios that could play out. Like, are you okay with hodling your BTC for another 365 days when BTC might drop 70% and you have to hodl for another at least 1 year? Like, are you okay with that? Some people answer that, well, they're not okay because they're gonna want to use that money. I don't know, maybe pay some rent or support your kids. Then like everyone has different financial needs, and I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not your life coach, so I don't know what your financial needs or situations you're in. So if you have other stuff that you're gonna need that money for, then maybe take some profit off the table, maybe like have some skin off the table. But like another group of people during dinner, they were like, oh, I have no problem holding BTC for another a year or a year and a half. Then yeah, there you go, you have your answer. Because like maybe you feel more relaxed when it comes to financial freedom, then you know what your strategy gonna be. But this is the question I really want you guys to, that's the key takeaway for this show, I would say. Really have some thought about it, what you guys do and how you adjust your position. Again, today there's a lot of chart analysis, because like there are more bearishness I'm seeing. For example, S&P, we are having some correction right now. So S&P, we topped very close to 7,000, or actually $69.21. So that's the all-time high for S&P, but like right now we're correcting a little bit. As you know, S&P and Bitcoin, they're highly correlated because Bitcoin is getting so big and people kind of view Bitcoin as a macro asset already. So it's highly correlated. If S&P pumps, Bitcoin likely going to pump. Like, although there's some deviation, the correlation between S&P and Bitcoin is about 0.8. So there is some deviation. Sometimes it happens. However, if we look at DXY, because DXY has the opposite effect, so it has a inverse correlation between DXY, so USD, the fiat dollars, and also Bitcoin's price. And what we have seen in the past like 3 weeks, DXY actually is on a little rally, and we are testing the major resistance of 100 and actually break above 100 this week on the DXY. This is not a good news for Bitcoin because when people see that even FX, like foreign currencies, doing well, like is increasing in value, why the hell they want to take on some extra risk to so-called bet on risk on asset like BTC, like cryptocurrencies, and altcoins are completely bleeding. I would argue like this cycle is so different that we haven't technically seen a alt season. Maybe it flashed for a week or two and then we quickly start. That's what happened this cycle. Like this cycle is so weird. So S&P is down. Again, not good news for Bitcoin. DXY is up. Again, also not good news for Bitcoin. So this is on the weekly. It really depends on this week, how we close this weekly candle, because that would drastically change whether we're going to be, this is a bear trap or a real bear market. I'm eyeing this very, very closely. And let's not forget on the RSI, we are forming this like RSI divergence. So let me bring up the trend line. So this RSI divergence we've been building up since March 2024. So like a year and a half ago. So usually when this happens, okay, because we are zooming out, we are on the weekly candles. So we are looking at things at a higher time frame. So this could absolutely play out for another weeks or months before we actually lose that. However, what this means is that we're definitely at the later stage of the, if it's still a bull market, of the bull market. So that's another thing we have to consider on the Bitcoin charts as well. One thing I noticed that Bitcoin community are talking on Twitter is this like death cross. For those of you who don't know what a cross is, basically this is a daily candle of BTC price action. So whenever people say, okay, when the 50-week, let me zoom closer and look at some, maybe, okay, here, maybe here. All right, so we have the 50-day moving average and also the 200-day moving average. Like whenever the 50-day moving average, we go above, that is like the golden cross. I think someone's at the door, if Sherry could help. So whenever the 50-day moving average goes above, that is like the golden cross. The opposite happened when the 200-day moving average is like below the 50-week. All right, so this is, well, zooming out with all this data back in 2012, and people are so concerned because we're getting so close again and saying, okay, is this another bear market we're entering? Because as you can see, the yellow line or orange line, the orange line represent the 50 week, and the 200 week is getting so close. Like the gap is really closing. If the 50 week goes below the 200, I keep saying 50 weeks, so sorry. So if the 50-day close below or goes below the 200-day moving average, then that is officially the death cross. So it sounds really scary. However, because I'm seeing so much FUD, whether it's from media companies, like all these like articles, all these analytic death cross, or on Twitter, people are posting so much about the death cross. However, for death cross, I'm really taking it with a pinch of salt. Like I'm not really concerned about this, because like it sounds very scary, but usually the opposite happens for death cross, and I have no idea why this would happen. Like there are so many occasions that when the death cross actually happen, it looks like we have found the bottom. Like for example, here is 2020 February. So you see the, oh no, this is the golden cross. Oh, right here. All right. So 2019. So 2019, we have the, oh no, wait, where's that again? Wait, 2020. Oh, okay. So here, sorry about that. I was a little bit confused. So in 2020, the beginning of the year, we saw the blue line going above the orange line. That is the death cross. So this is the actually 2019 October. So this is the death cross, but usually when that happens, we have seen a kind of bottom. So it happens like a few occasions. So the death cross, I'm not taking that seriously, because the track record doesn't show that is very accurate. So yeah, potentially the opposite would happen. Assuming closer to right now, the gap is closing, no doubt. But again, I'd like to see some more confirmation, like the golden and death cross. This thing, I'm really taking a pinch of salt, so I'm not too worried about this indicator at all. All right, so like going back to the weekly chart. So we have been talking about the 4-year cycle extensively, and then there are 3 groups of people. If the first group were to play out, so 126K is ready, the cycle top, like when will we bottom out? Okay, if we zoom closer, let's look at the previous cycle. So back in 2021 November, we have ever since the cycle top, and then we found a bottom of roughly 15K. That is like 370 days, something like that. So usually it's about a year, somewhere around 1 year. So that is the time frame. So back in 2017, that's what happened as well. So 364 days, so a year. If we apply the same measure, so let's say a year is, of course, okay, it's going to be 5th of October 2026. So that would be the cycle bottom if we are using exactly the 4-year cycles being so intact. And usually when that were to happen, we're going to find support around the 200-week moving average. At the moment, 200-week is sitting at $55,000. And you ask me, if I see $55,000 for one BTC, I'm going to sell everything. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to sell my organs to ape into BTC. Of course, not financial advice, but like just sharing a little strategy, a little thought that I have. All right, so that's that's so much data and that's so much number. So what we're going to do is take a little break, because like I know that's a lot to digest. After that, we're going to look at some actual trading numbers, like some trading strategies, because there's massive liquidation being took place. So we're going to look at some liquidation, how some AI trading strategy came across, what's basically the outcome, and also we're going to dive into the news. We're going to look at some Bitcoin treasury firm because they're being forced to sell some BTC. Like, is that one of the reasons why we're seeing this Bitcoin crash? Anyways, there's still so much to dive in, and we're going to see you guys after the little break.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Alright guys, welcome back to Roxham TV. Like, we were looking at so much data, a lot of charts analysis, but let's talk about the real strategy. Like, we have seen people using their hardcore money to trade around and then got completely wiped out and liquidated, because there are a lot of instances I saw. Like, one I actually cover on both Roxham TV and Gems of Crypto is the Alpha Arena. So if you guys remember, I was talking about this like AI trading. So basically, all these AI LMs were given 10,000 USDC to trade around on Hyperliquid to trade basically pulling long or short positions on the bigger asset like BTC, Ethereum, or Dogecoin, etc. So we were talking about DeepSeek because it had the best P&L. We saw like turning from 10K to 23K at its peak, but right now, very disappointingly, we are sitting at 6.3K, so actually at a loss. The first one that kind of win this competition is Quen, another one from China. So that's the LM, kind of won this competition, but like it's still at a loss. So I'm not sure if it's like quite a win or not. The worst one is, of course, ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is a poet. So it focuses on writing stuff. It's more like an author. Like if you ask an author to trade and deal with numbers, it's going to be really bad. So ChatGPT, there's still so much improvement. As I mentioned, like I hope you guys didn't just blindly follow this AI trading. I copy trade because like I know there's a lot of risk, because this thing has only been around since 18th of October. I play around with some spare money, and of course, like at the end of the day, yesterday there's like a huge liquidation. More than $2 billion got liquidated within 24 hours. So yeah, LM being one of them.
Another huge liquidation, another person I have to talk about is the Machi brother. He suffers 15 million liquidation on Hyperliquid because like everything is so transparent. And look at this, like this is a very, very interesting story. Because like if I have to keep going down, because like he keeps trading and he keeps losing a lot of money. Like he turned, well, yesterday I was talking about this with Fernando. He turned $44 million P&L, so 44 million profits into, okay, yesterday it was 16K. So from $44 million profit and then being left with 16K. So he wants to bet big, so he gambled with this 16K as well. And right now, like so yesterday he got liquidated again because the liquidation price is at $3,500 per ETH. So he managed to turn his 44 million P&L profits into 16K. And then yesterday the 16K got liquidated, completely wiped out. And his balance went from 44 million profit P&L to $1,700. So yeah, I mean that's a lot of like sad story when it comes to liquidation. And right now, I would say the advice is really stay away from leverage. That is like even pro trader is getting liquidated one way or the other. So yeah, I mean I think the most sensible way is to let's just not touch leverage for the time being. And especially yesterday, another huge liquidation took place. So try to trade responsibly, stay away from leverage, and really know what you're doing. Have a strategy and actually stick to the strategy. All right, so let's dive into some of the news because I've seen something very interesting about Bitcoin Treasury Firm. You know, I've been long-term bearish on this like Bitcoin proxy company for a very, very long time, for months. And this is the first major company got I wanted to say liquidated for some reason, but like this company is called Sequans. So Sequans Communications recently sold 970 BTC, which is worth like $100 million, just to reduce its convertible debt load. This is a major case for the entire Bitcoin Treasury company narrative, like selling BTC to repay its debt. You know, like when it comes to Bitcoin proxy, they like to claim they're going to hodl forever. That narrative started with MicroStrategy, of course, but like this news came out literally just like a few hours ago or yesterday, I think. Well, so November, I don't know, like, okay, yesterday, so 4th of November. So yesterday, like this actually broke the dream of how this like Bitcoin Treasury company would work. Like, okay, this sell, like even though they're selling 970 BTC, of course, not this reason alone crashed the market, but it raises serious questions about how sustainable the debt-funded BTC Treasury strategies actually work. So if we look at the entire trend, all these companies, so there are more than 100 companies, actually like more than 160 Bitcoin Treasury companies. So together they hold more than 1 million BTC. So worth about $100 billion. Of course, like it depends how much Bitcoin is worth. But many of these firms are highly leveraged and may be vulnerable if BTC price drops. So MicroStrategy, of course, is going to be safe because it's the big brother, is sitting at number one. It has the fast mover advantage, and in terms of the cash flow, everything is healthy. But the rest, like all these copycats you see on this ranking list, like Sequan, the company we're talking about, Like they face a huge amount of risk. So let's unpack how this happened. So what is this, like basically who is this company? What is like Sequans? So it is a French company, a semiconductor company making IoT and 5G chips for smart devices and industrial systems. It was founded back in 2003, listed on the New York Exchange since 2011. However, it has been struggling with with profit as well. So if we actually dive into financials, if we zoom closer, so there's a lot of numbers, but whenever we look at balance sheet or like the financials like this, that's just like one number I like to focus on. And if you guys want to do some analysis, like you could you're welcome to look into this as well. Everything is on Yahoo Finance. So if we scroll down, one number I'm eyeing very closely is the EBIT. So we're on the quarter. So this is the latest one. So EBIT is a negative number for this company. So that means they are losing money. That means they are losing money from this quarter. So the second quarter. Wait, no. So this is the first quarter of 2025 and the second quarter of 2025. They've been losing money, like the cash flow is not, EBIT is not nice. So this company has been struggling, yet they adopted this MicroStrategy playbook, like buying BTC via convertible debt and selling equities. So this actually announced, so they got into the whole Bitcoin play. That was back in July. Wait, where's the news again? Like, I have so many tabs. This is getting ridiculous. All right, so back in July this year, so they actually have got in and those Bitcoin play for 3 months, a little, okay, 4 months, okay, 4 months. 4 months, yet they are selling the BTC already. Because, of course, like back in July, when they broke this news, like Sequans raised $384 million just to buy BTC, and then its stocks absolutely skyrocketed. People were loving that so much. And how they managed to raise that amount of money was through both debt and equity. So that's very concerning. And the reason why I like to look at the financials is that, okay, MicroStrategy could get away from this because they have a really healthy balance. They have a really healthy cash flow. The software business is bringing consistent cash flow of like over $100 million. Like for companies like this, all these copycats, they are zombie companies. Like they are losing money, and then yet they're getting into the Bitcoin playbook. So of course it's bound to fail. Like I don't know why all these so-called really smart TradFi guys or like crypto CEOs, they were so hyped about this trend when it came out. Like I couldn't wrap my head around, and I've been bearish for months. I have done a full-on video just to shit on this trend, like just to shit on this narrative. And here we have the first really major play selling the BTC, and of course that would add some selling pressure to the Bitcoin market. So let's also look at the balance sheet, like why I think MicroStrategy could get away, but not companies like this. So let's hop onto the balance sheet. And what we have to pay attention is the debt to equity or debt to asset, like both works. So balance sheet and MicroStrategy. Let's compare the two. Like how about that? So the reason why they're forced to sell the BTC, let's go to the the balance sheet. The latest one, so this is because liabilities, of course, is debt, and then we have the equity. Like we are seeing the debt is exceeding the equity. Well, we look at MicroStrategy on the other hand. This is a much healthier balance sheet. Like they play the debt to equity ratio very beautifully. That's why they could get away. And even if Bitcoin crashed to 50K to 55K to its 200-week moving average, MicroStrategy will still be okay because one, they are the first mover advantage. Two, they have consistent cash flow from the software business. And three, they have a beautiful balance sheet, like the debt to equity or debt to asset ratio. They keep it at a really healthy range. And MicroStrategy is also trying to find other creative ways to raise funds just to purchase some BTC. Like we talk about that on Roxham TV as well. They are raising some stocks, like some preferred stocks. STLE is the latest one with focus on the Europe market. So they have a lot of like creative ways, and without triggering this like debt. So they keep that debt to equity and debt to asset, that ratio at a really healthy range. This is like a beautiful balance. And when we look at financials, like we really need to dive into data like this in order to analyze, to come up, okay, whether this is a consistent trend, like this company is still gonna be around. Whereas Sequans, look at this, like debt over its equity. We have more debt over its equity. So that's why they are being forced to sell some BTC, and that's why MicroStrategy could get away, but not all these like copycats, more than 100 copycats. So there are actually more than 160 companies doing the same, trying to do what MicroStrategy is doing. But at the end of the day, there's only one MicroStrategy. Like I hate to break it to you guys. And MicroStrategy playing a really beautiful balance. It's like a seesaw. We have to manage that ratio very, very beautifully, and MicroStrategy has been doing that. So my prediction is that all these companies, like maybe 10 companies out of 160 companies that we are seeing today, still going to be around in the next cycle. MicroStrategy being the biggest one. So all these smaller firms, they are a lot of them actually under risk, so they are underwater. 1/3 of these like Bitcoin proxy companies you're seeing actually trade below the BTC value. So the MNAV is lower than 1x premium. 1x. I should call it 1x. I shouldn't call it premium. So the MNAV is lower than 1x. That means they are underwater, and 1/3 of these like proxy companies are underwater, and yet they don't manage the debt to asset ratios very carefully. So I don't think we're going to see much of these companies around in the next cycle. But like if you ask me, is this going to be the black swan event for Bitcoin? It's going to have a cascading event. Like Sequans, like this company, not even close. Because like this sale is actually very tiny, like 970 Bitcoin. It's nothing, because Bitcoin is so big already. But the bigger issue is sentiment. Like investors now question whether BTC on balance sheet automatically makes a company strong. So it's a warning shot. It's not a crisis. The final takeaway, I'll say, okay, if too many of these like small firms over leverage, it could create a more selling pressure in the next bear market, or if this is a bear market already. But strong players like MicroStrategy, and we have ETFs, we have miners actually providing a lot of like stabilizing floor that reduce those cascading effect, those contagion risk. So smaller firms may struggle, but the long-term thesis remains intact. Bitcoin is evolving from a repel asset into a legitimate corporate tool with both benefits and risk to, of course, to decentralization. That is another story at another time. Well, I can't believe I was talking about so much like numbers for the entire show, so I've been looking at numbers. Usually I do more news analysis. Well, I would say like 50-50. Okay. I prepare actually a lot more material. So I was going to talk about the AI because we're seeing all these Bitcoin miner companies are getting into their whole AI playbook, but looks like I'm not sure if we have time, if we could overrun, run again, we don't have time. Okay, I guess we have to wrap. Let's see if I could cover that tomorrow. And anyways, that's it for today's analysis. That was a lot of number. I think, well, I've been doing live stream every single day for months now, and this show is ultimately the only show for months that I have only talked about numbers. So thank you so much for those of you who stick around. I'm actually looking at the live chat. Like, you guys are being really active. So yeah, I was asking about the audio. I glad that I have the feedback from you guys that the audio was okay. But anyways, that's it for today's analysis. Coming to you, of course, from Roxham, Hong Kong studio. I'm live from Monday to Friday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, breaking down all the biggest stories in Bitcoin and also in the world. So if you enjoy this live stream, if you enjoy this show, make sure to hit the subscribe and catch the next one live. Whenever or wherever you're tuning in from, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.